lately I've been kind of experiencing a common theme in my life, whether it's sermons or just conversation. And the conversation and sermons have centered around the idea of worry and on another end, the idea of trust. And when I was thinking about this and I was preparing my message, one of the things that popped into my head was, have you ever had to trust someone? I'm sure we can all think of an instance in our life where we're like, yo, homie, I'm trusting you, so, do what you gotta do because I trust you. Or maybe in another circumstance, somebody came to us and said, do you trust me? And you're like, no, not really. Or you're like, yes, 100%. Or my favorite phrase, or my least favorite phrase to hear is just trust me. Like when somebody won't give you any details and they won't tell you anything, they'd say, just trust me. Like you'll be standing, they'll say, give me your hand. You're like, why? Why do you want my hand? Just trust me. Oh yeah, right. Like that's like if you want me to trust you, don't say just trust me. That's like the least way to get me to trust somebody. And so when I think about trust and I think about worry, one of the things that I've kind of noticed is that worry robs us of the ability to trust. Because to trust somebody means that you believe in their ability or their reliability or their strength or whatever it is about them that makes you trust them. You have to believe in it and you have to be confident in it. But when you worry, you start to doubt that person's ability or your trust in them. And, like if I trust you to keep a secret, I believe that nobody's going to find it out. If I trust you to plan an event, I believe that there's going to be an event. And in that, I have to trust you and I have to give you control over the thing that I'm trusting you with. And so people sometimes start to worry when they have no control, when they can't control the information that's being shared, they can't control the relationships that are being formed, they can't control the details of the party that's being planned. And so they start to worry and they start to distrust. And that's one of the reasons people find it difficult to trust others. And I think that's also one of the reasons why people have a difficulty trusting God, is because they have no control. They can't tell God, you do this, you do it now, you do it this way. We have to believe that what God says he will do, and he'll do in his way, and we're going to trust in that. And, it's not helpful really to say like, don't worry, just don't worry, or calm down, or don't worry about it, forget about it, it's no big deal. Like those kind of things don't really help us stop worrying. But I wanted to today look very briefly at some causes of worry and how choosing to trust God helps us overcome those causes of worry. And the first one that I think, first thing in my own life that sometimes causes me to worry is a limited understanding. If you've ever found yourself in a position where you've asked why, how, where, what, who, when, then you are admitting that you lack understanding. You need more information in order to better understand either a relationship, a circumstance, or whatever it is that you have a question about. You want more information so that you can better understand it because you lack understanding at that time. And in Proverbs 3:5-6, it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not rely on your own understanding. Think about him in all your ways and he will guide you on the right paths. And I think it's really interesting that Solomon acknowledges Solomon as the wisest man ever, that we know of, acknowledges that our understanding is not something that we can rely on. The way that we understand things in our own strength and in our own mind is not something that's a good basis for us to anticipate certain things or to imagine how certain things will happen, especially when it comes to how we imagine or anticipate that God will work in our life. If we believe and trust in what God is doing and we're, relying on what he's going to do, and we start trying to rationalize it and make it logical in our own mind, we're not going to be able to do that because God doesn't see things the same way that we do. His understanding is far greater than ours. It's far better than ours. And so if we try to put his understanding down to our level, it's going to make us worry because we don't immediately have all the questions answered that we want. We sit there and we kind of think, God, how? God, why? God, where? God, when? God, who? God, what? And we go through all these things, and when we don't have that answer immediately, it really causes us to worry because we want to know. We recognize that we don't know, and so we want to know. And to trust God we have to believe that his knowledge is greater than ours, and we have to believe that his knowledge is better than ours. And that takes a lot when you don't know what God might be doing. You don't know how God is working. You don't know what to anticipate. And so it's really hard to believe that it is going to be better and that it is going to be good. But that's why in the second part of this verse it says, think about him in all your ways and he will guide you on the right paths. And so the way to kind of combat this worry that is caused by not having enough understanding is to come to God in prayer and acknowledge him when you have these questions. If this worry comes into your mind of where, of who, of when, of what, say, God, help me to understand. God, give me a better understanding of when these things will come to pass. How can I recognize that these things are happening in my life? How can I see more of you and understand more of how you're working in my life? Acknowledge him in this way, and he will guide you and help you go the way that he wants you to. So come to him in prayer. Another place that we can look at in order that will help us trust God and his understanding is Matthew 6:31-32. And in here, I love the title of this little section. It's called The Cure for Anxiety. And Jesus is talking, and I'm pretty sure this is a Sermon on the Mount, and he's talking about worrying. And he says, prior to that, he's saying, if that's how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and thrown into the furnace tomorrow, won't he do much more for you, you of little faith? So don't worry, saying, what will we eat, or what will we drink, or what will we wear? For the idolaters eagerly seek all these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them. Another reason why we can trust God's understanding over our own is because God knows what we need. God is not oblivious to the things that we have going on in our lives. He is sensitive to them and he cares about them. And so we can trust that his understanding for our life is for good. And we can put our lives into his hands in that way. Another thing is, we can't, like I was saying, we can't expect God's understanding to be like our own because we know the reality that's in front of us. God knows the reality that he's creating. He sees above and beyond what we are experiencing right now. And that's why we trust in him, because he is far greater than our own ability. A really practical example of this, of like what I mean when I say that sometimes you gotta just trust because he knows more, is I went to a park a couple months, maybe even half a year ago, and I'd never been to this park before, and I went kind of late with a couple of friends, and I'm pretty sure we walked like a solid 5 miles away from where we had parked. I had no idea where we were. And it got dark. It was like 8 o'clock. It got dark really quick. And at this point, we're using our flashlights, our phones as flashlights, and I don't have any idea how to get back to our car. I'm already freaking out. I'm already praying. Like, Lord, if I die. I remember when I was walking through that, I was thinking to myself, where can I kind of like die so that they'd find me? Because I was genuinely worried. Like, if I get stuck, do I have service? Am I searchable? Am I locationable? Like, where am I? Will I be found? I was really concerned, but I kept it to myself. Internalized my worries and just said, you know what, it's fine. And at one point, there was one person who did know where we were going, and they were leading us, and we're following them, and they turn back and they say, do you trust me? I was like, why would you even ask that? Like why would you even invite that question? And I said, instantaneously said, yes, 100%. And they were shocked. They're like, really? I was like, of course. I have no idea where I'm going. You are the only one in this very moment. Whatever knowledge you may have, whether it's a lot or a little, you still know more than I do. Of course I'm going to trust you. I have to trust you. And the same thing with God, wherever he's leading us, wherever we're going, trust that he knows where he's going, and way more than in some park where you're walking for 5 miles. He knows where he's going for your entire life. So trust in God's understanding, trust in his knowledge. It's far greater and far better than our own. Another cause of worry that I've noticed in my life is a limit in my ability. When I start thinking about the things that I can't do, like when you have a list of stuff that you need to do and you start thinking like, what do I need to do it? Who do I need to talk to? What is it that I have to do in order for this thing to get done? And then you start thinking about like, man, I can't do it. I don't have time for it. I can't physically be here and there at the same time. And honestly, you may not even know how to do it. It may be something completely new that you are trying to pursue in your life and you just don't know what steps to take. And so you start to worry, because then the questions come of, how am I going to do this? How am I supposed to start this? Who am I supposed to talk to? What kind of things do I need? If I need money, where is it going to come from? How many jobs do I have to work in order to make it happen? And it all comes down to, there's a limit in our ability, and we start to worry because we feel like we're not capable of doing certain things. And Jesus in Luke 12:25-26, he says, "Can any of you add a cubit to his height by worrying? If then you're not able to do even a little thing, why worry about the rest?" And it's interesting because Jesus immediately calls us out and he says, you literally cannot change a single thing by worrying. Worrying will not enable you to take action. It will not enable you or give you the skills that you need, because worrying is like being on a hamster wheel. You're in motion. Your mind is circling the same thought over and over again, but you're not actually moving forward. And so when we trust in God's ability, on the other hand, then we are able to take action. Then we're able to do more outside of our worry. And we need to focus not on our own inability, but focus on God's ability. What is God able to do? What has God already done? And if God has already worked in your life, he's definitely not just going to leave you there and, leave you to figure out the rest of it. God is faithful from the very beginning. He brings everything to fruition from the start to the end. And we don't have to put that pressure on ourselves of us changing things, of us having the ability to make things happen. It's really stressful when you start to think of all the things you have to do and you start making this list for yourself and you start worrying about all those things and then wondering, okay, great, I have this fantastic list and I don't even know where to begin because I don't have the ability to manage all of it. So we have to trust in God's ability, believe that God is able when we are not. And the last kind of cause of worry that I wanted to talk briefly on is aside from my own lack of understanding and my own lack of ability, a position I always find myself in is my limited control. I know you guys, a lot of you know me pretty well, and I'll be honest, I really do not care how people do things. I don't. I just care that the end result is to a certain standard. Like, my end result standard is incredibly high. How you get there, God bless you. Like, listen, I'm serious. Do it the way that you know how to do it, but let's get to where we need to be. But if you ask me for my opinion, while you're on your way doing things, trust me, you don't want to open that can. There is a lot of opinions that I try to suppress, but I know that I know myself, and I know that when somebody asks me, how should I do something, I hover and I immediately immerse myself in the how, and I'm like, oh, okay, we're going to do it like this and like that, and everything is methodical and stepped out because I feel in control. And I feel good. I feel like I'm finally getting something, like something's going right, something's going the way that I had planned. And then there's so many times where I realize I'm not in control, where I realize I can't do anything to change the situation. This is beyond my control. This is beyond my sphere of influence. And those kind of times, they really take a toll on me, because that is something that when I want to achieve something really great, when I want this result to be really fantastic and perfect, and things are going out of control, it really bums me out. It really brings me down. And that's just me being really honest. It really gets to me. And when I was thinking about this situation where, like, in my life sometimes it's too much for me to handle and it's too much, things are coming out from under my control, I thought about the story of Mary and Martha in Luke 10:38. And Mary and Martha invited Jesus over. Martha's getting a bunch of stuff ready. She's cooking, she's cleaning. Mary is sitting at the feet of Jesus, and she's just listening to him talk. And Martha complains about this, and Jesus' response to Martha is, Martha, Martha, you are worried and upset about many things, but one thing is necessary. Mary has made the right choice, and it will not be taken from her. And so when I think about all the things that I can't control, relationships, school, work, daily tasks, I I think about, like, I can't make kids stop crying in Sunday school. You know, like, if the baby's crying, the baby's crying. Like, I'm sorry. Like, sometimes that's just their day. Like, this is their choice. This is their lifestyle. For this hour and a half, they are going to cry. And that is it. And that's it. What could I do? I can't change that. I can't go to my teacher and say, hey, give me an A because, you know, I haven't been doing that well, so help me out. I can't go to this company that I want to work for and say, okay, I interviewed, so give me the job. I could, but I shouldn't. But either way, you know, that doesn't put things under my control. That just makes me a rude person. And when I look at all these things and all these things that I can't control, I start to think, and then I have these other thoughts that come into my mind, and I'm like, who do I think I am that I think that I could control this even if I could? Who do I think I am that if I had this all under my control, that it would all run perfectly and smoothly? Oh my goodness, there's so much I can't do. There's so much I don't understand. There's so much I can't control. And then it just comes and comes and comes and comes and comes and comes and comes, all in one day, and then I cry a little bit. Because it's overwhelming to think of all the things that we may not understand and the things that we're not able to do and the things that we can't control. And when I worry, I tell myself I need to stop being a Martha. I need to stop. Don't be a Martha, be a Mary. Choose Jesus above everything. Choose God's understanding. Choose God's ability. Choose God's control in your life over all of these thoughts that may come into your head to try and, you know, pull you away from that comfort and joy that we have in Jesus, where our life isn't about how many things we understand. It's not about how many things we're able to do. It's not about how many things we're able to control. It's about being with Jesus. And I read this quote from Leo Buscaglia. I'm pretty sure he's like Italian, but he said, "Worry never robs tomorrow of its sorrow. It only saps today of its joy." And that really was sad to me, because worrying doesn't take away the pain that's going to come tomorrow, but it causes the pain, you know, that you experience when you let all those thoughts come into your mind. And so, just to conclude, you know, if you find yourself in a position of worry, put yourself in a position of Mary. Put yourself at the feet of Jesus. And in every instance of worry, remind yourself and trust that God understands, God is in control, and God is able.